The Wheeling Plan Commission meeting for Thursday, March 20th, 2014 is called to order. Please stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge
allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Mr. Secretary, would you please take the roll?
Commissioner Dorband is absent with prior notice. Commissioner Johnson, I am here. Commissioner Powers.
Here.
Commissioner Schaaf.
I'm here.
Commissioner Stylen.
Here.
Commissioner Zangara.
I'm here.
And Chairman Raffato.
Here. Mr. Jennings, any changes to the agenda?
We have no changes this evening.
Citizens' concerns and comments. Time for anyone in the audience to voice a concern or a comment about anything in general. There's no one here. Thank you. Consent items, docket number SCBA 14-7, Midland Paper, 101 East Palatine Road, appearance approval of wall signs. It's an existing company that is changing their wall signs. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second with a question.
Sure.
Andrew, are they just changing the bottom lettering to make it a little bit darker? Or?
They are actually illuminating this sign. So they're changing out the whole sign. It will look almost exactly the same. Just the Midland Paper portion of it will be illuminated now.
Excellent. Okay, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
We have a motion by Commissioner Johnson, seconded by Commissioner Stylen. Mr. Secretary.
Commissioner Johnson, I vote yes. Commissioner Stylen.
Yes.
Commissioner Powers.
Yes.
Commissioner Schaaf.
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara.
Yes.
And Chairman Raffato.
Yes. Items for review. A, docket numbers PC 14-6 and SCBA 14-6. Are those the same number?
That is the same number.
Okay, well, Starbucks Coffee, 310 North Milwaukee Avenue, PC 14-6, minor site plan and appearance approval for facade modifications, SCBA 14-6, appearance approval of wall signs. Mr. Jennings.
Thank you. Starbucks Coffee at 310 North Milwaukee is requesting some minor modifications to the existing facility. They include a new paint job, which we have here to pass down, a canvas enclosure for the walk-up area, as well as a replacement face for the existing wall sign. With that, I'd like to hand it over to the petitioner.
Good evening. Thanks for your time.
Good evening.
My name is
If
Trevor.
you give your name and,
Yeah. My name is Trevor Holton.
or if you have a business card, you can give her that too.
Yeah.
That'd be
I'm
great.
sorry.
She's the only one that didn't get
Yeah,
it.
she's the only, we all have them.
Oh, okay. I'm Trevor Holton, a construction project manager with Starbucks Coffee Company. Just here to present this evening the proposed changes that we have to our existing building signage at 310 North Milwaukee. I can, Andrew, do you mind advancing through?
Sure.
As you can see, we're changing out, updating to our appropriate brand logo, the south siren. With the paint colors, we won't be changing the word mark signage. So we're just adding that standard brand updated logo that you see on a lot of our new buildings. And then we're also proposing a canvas enclosure. It will not change the footprint of the building at all. It's just going to be a seasonal kind of patio to provide a little bit of shelter for some of our walk-up customers in that business area.
Is that it?
That's it.
Just before you move on to the
Yes.
commissioners, the canvas enclosure, this area here, that is the darker colored material?
Correct.
And then above the canvas enclosure, where I'm pointing now, can you describe just real quickly how that would be handled?
As far as like the building, on the
Material.
building facade
This-
or the
this-
material?
This material here across the,
It's a powder coat. It's a powder coated metal. It'll be it'll match the fabric, and then the fabric, the clear window areas.
okay, so it's like a 3 mil clear window.
Yep.
And these are the two colors?
Correct. Yep, those are the building colors.
All right, we can start with Commissioner Powers.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Where exactly is it's the south side, the canvas enclosure. So is there currently, because I'm not that familiar with the site, is there currently seating in that area? You're just going to put like a...
It's a covered area. It goes out about 10 feet.
From the building?
No, so actually there's, from that picture, you can see it. So that's a covered soffit area. It
I
extends
see.
about 10 feet out. And so just where you see the open areas between the pillars is the proposed area of that canvas enclosure. So throughout the season, they put out,
So it's going to be totally enclosed, it'll just drop down and you have like a box built?
Yeah, exactly. They just clip in, so seasonally, when the weather doesn't get as good, they can close it in a little bit.
So on your, in the sample you provided us, the metal that's on there, is that like the framing for the enclosure?
Exactly.
So will that be covered with the fabric that was also present with that
Correct.
sample?
Yeah, so on the outside, it's all covered.
So we won't see any of that metal when the enclosure's done?
Correct.
And then I assume when the weather gets better and it's like spring and summer, you won't have that enclosure in there? But will the metal stay there?
No, it's actually, so it's a clip system. It has a Z-clip system.
Okay.
We have a contract with one of our facility service vendors, so it'll annually come in and out with the season.
Okay, and you'll store it somewhere?
Correct. We have a warehouse that we store it at.
Okay. I really don't have anything else. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Sangara.
The question I have is, when you put this enclosure up, are you tending any portable heating in there, or is it just an enclosure just for those?
No, it's just an enclosure to, we had looked at maybe the possibility of adding a heater, but the electrical load on the building, we're not gonna do that so that we have room for future equipment.
And then within this area, will you have seating in there, chairs, tables in there, or is it just basically to cover people to walk up?
It's kind of to cover people in the walk-up area. We're not showing seating in there.
Okay.
So I think it would probably be dependent on how the operators decided they want to go with it. I actually do believe that there are seating count requirements that we have to stay within for our use permit.
Okay, that was my main concern. I mean, there is existing lighting underneath there already, is there lighting?
Yep, there's
Okay.
existing can lighting, so it's almost.
Okay, so everything basically stays the same, you're just
Yep.
putting. Okay, that's all I had, thank you.
Commissioner Stanley.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Couple questions about the canvas area. One is, it appears that, at least on your depiction, the window area, if I can just call it that, or the door area over on the other side, appears that the windows have some kind of heavy trim around it that I assume might be that metal piece. Do you know?
I think it's just depicting the frame.
Yeah, the frame, but what color is the frame?
It'll be powder coated to match the fabric.
Okay.
Yeah.
And the same for the door?
Correct.
And whatever it
Yep.
is going to be? Okay. Andrew, I have a question for staff. You go in and talk about the enclosure area, and then under fire department review, you say that fire department has reviewed and approved the building plans associated with the interior remodel. Does that include the canvas addition that I would think would have been more outside than inside? But
It does, actually. Given the timing of this, when we got the construction permit plans, the majority of the work is actually interior work related to the efficiency of the kitchen. So the business had some timing issues to work out on that. So we proceeded with the permit review of the interior work and noted for them that the exterior appearance issues would have to go through the plan commission. So what the fire department reviewed included everything, but we had specifically noted that the permit can't include exterior modifications until the plan commission approves them.
Okay. And one thing that I would like you to change on your staff report, although it doesn't seem to have a page number. Let me see. On mine, of the packet, it's page 11 of 46, where you say the building plans provided by NORR, 5 pages dated 2/5/2014. The date should really be 3/11/2014. That's the date that's stamped on the side of the plan, so. Second to the last, yeah,
On the report, on the staff report,
on the staff report.
proposed motion.
Then if you go to the plans and scroll down to the bottom left-hand side, the date is 3/11/14. And do you know if there was any changes since your review from February to this particular plan that we're approving?
I think they're the exact same plan. One is the date on the plan, and the other is the date that we received the plan. So I'll just make sure that if we're saying plan dated 2/5, I think that is the date the architect has placed on the plan. And I think we received it.
On 3/12.
No, the date
3/11.
on the plan, which I presume was done by the architect, maybe not. Or Y:/IL-Wheeling, is that?
It's
Date.
a hard drive address or something.
Versus the state.
I don't, maybe that's the date they created the PDF.
That could be, is it perpendicular to the other writing?
Yeah,
That's the date that they created the file.
all righty, just make sure we know which one we're talking about. Thank you. That's my only question.
Commissioner Johnson.
Thank you. Is this a 24-hour operation?
No, it's not.
Is the door in this canvas enclosure lockable, so you don't have people hanging out there in the middle of the night?
I don't have the details on that.
Because that's something to consider.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a nice hiding spot
Yeah,
for
it would be.
troublemakers.
Agreed. I mean, it would be I think it would be easily modifiable for a lock.
Andrew, is the overhang sprinklered right now?
It is.
It is? Okay. Those are my only questions, thanks.
Commissioner Schaaf.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Your enclosure is three-sided?
Correct.
Three-sided with a door? And there's only one entrance and egress, right?
Correct.
That door, I assume, is going to be where? On the south side or the east side?
It'll be on the east, it's on the east side.
It's on the east side.
Yep, where the current walk-up is.
Is it just a swinging door, or it's
Yep.
just a swinging door?
Yep, it's just a swinging door.
And it's a canvas type?
Correct.
It seems to me it had to be awful stiff canvas to be a swinging door, right?
It's a maritime, I mean, it's a frame,
Framed unit.
It's a framed unit, and it's a sunbrella
And
fabric.
Commissioner Johnson's question was, can you secure it?
That was his suggestion, so we could.
Yeah, I would think that you would want to secure that.
Sure.
That's all. Those are my concerns. Thank you.
Just a couple of general questions. One, do we want to put a condition on some type of lock on there, on the door, so ensure that they know that we're recommending that?
This is actually a final action. It's a minor.
Oh, okay. So,
We can, I'm just thinking, there is no access from the building, so whatever lock you have to do, you'd have to come outside.
From the outside.
Padlock it.
Yeah, which
Okay.
I think is more than acceptable.
Sure.
and this, you said, is It's just temporary, you're going to take it down,
Strictly seasonal.
strictly seasonal?
Yep.
Now, I'm sure it's, looks good and everything, but do we need a condition to have them take it down? Because I know some of our other folks that we ask them to take those down, they don't.
The, one distinction in this case is that it could be left up permanently, I believe, because the enclosed area would be sprinkled,
Oh, okay.
but it certainly could be added as a condition.
How would you feel about that, Mr. Hopland? If we put a condition that you have to take it down every season, in the season?
I don't think that would be a problem. I mean, that's the intent. It's the
Okay.
intent to do it
Let's
seasonally.
add the condition then.
And do we need to do anything about putting a non-smoking sign or something?
We'll do, I mean, that's, sorry to interrupt you. It's pretty standard for our spaces to be non-smoking, and even our outdoor patios that aren't enclosed, so that's,
That's good.
it'll be
That's a good point,
posted.
though.
and
Okay,
taken care
great,
of.
thank you. Yes,
So we will be putting a condition in that they will be taking it down every year? Is that-
Yes.
Okay. Because I was wondering if those windows, if there was any possibility that they were like temporary and it would be like zippered in, or you could like unzipper them and like take the window part of it out, let the air come in if, you know, if need be, and put the window back in, or is that permanently fitted into the canvas?
It's fitted into the canvas, so it's a panelized system.
So it can't be removed in any case?
Correct.
Okay,
okay, cool.
that's it.
Regarding the seasonal condition, do you just want it, or the condition just to be that it won't be up 12 months out of the year? Because
Exactly.
I guess that would be hard to say.
Right.
Each
Yeah,
year,
understand.
you can't,
Yeah.
like this year. is a
Like
lot
this year.
different, so.
March 1st would have been pretty tough.
Yeah.
All right. So, Mr. Jennings, if you want to read the conditions, I would assume on the minor site plan modification
minor
before I
site-
look for approval?
This is on the PC 14-6.
14-6, right?
Number one, that the enclosure is to be locked when the business is closed. And number two, that the enclosure is to be removed seasonally.
Great, thank you. Do I hear a motion on PC 14-6?
So moved.
Second. We have a motion by Commissioner Steinle, second by Commissioner Schaaf. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Steinle?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaaf?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, I say yes. Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara?
Yes.
And Chairman Rafado?
Yes. Motion on SCBA 14-6, appearance approval of wall signs. Do I hear a motion?
So moved.
Second.
A motion by Commissioner Schaaf, second by Commissioner Powers. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Schaaf?
Yes.
Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson, I say yes. Commissioner Steinle?
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara?
Yes.
And Chairman Rafado?
Yes. That's it.
Great, thank you guys for your time.
You'll have stick around, you'll have a couple of things to sign.
Unfortunately, we probably won't be able to see it until next year when it gets cold out, right?
Hopefully it is as soon as.
Why, they might want to put it up tomorrow.
Or are you going to test it out and make sure it fits and get the clips installed and stuff?
We'll see what the lead time is. And hopefully the spring's coming fast.
Are you sure?
Today was the first day.
I think it snowed today.
Yes, it did.
Did.
I mean, the snow plows were out in Rockford plowing the streets.
Yeah, the guy that went out to hunt me said there was about an inch out there.
I still got my Christmas lights on my roof, so.
Yeah, you're not alone. Got most of my stuff
Oh,
down.
I see Mary over there. Didn't see you come in.
Yeah, I still got extension cords around.
Yeah.
There's no,
I figured I'd do it tomorrow, but tomorrow it's supposed to be freezing again. Not tomorrow, Saturday.
Trevor, when do you think you'll be done with the major outside changes?
Yeah, that's gonna kind of be weather dependent, like the paint.
Yeah.
We're shooting to do the interior
Does he need his sample back?
next couple of weeks. It's nice. No
Okay.
sense doing paint if it's not above
60 degrees? I don't think
tomorrow.
that'll ever happen.
Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, right.
Well, so they're saying.
Fool me once.
Yeah, but it's
Probably one day, though. It's a teaser.
gonna be a teaser.
You can't reach me. Sam is the guy's name. Okay. Sam Doro.
Thank you.
Thanks, you guys.
Calling docket number 2014-5, Village of Wheeling Amendment to Title 21 Signs. Mr. Jennings?
Thank you. We did not open this last week, so we do need to formally open this hearing.
We do?
and Swear me in.
Okay, so, Mr. Johnson,
You gotta swear him in.
we did formally open this, right?
No, we did not.
We did not. Then
Well, I
why
need
does
to
it
read
say
this part.
hearing continued without,
It was continued without opening.
oh, without opening? You didn't say that.
So I just need to do this part
Yes,
then.
and then I'll swear you in.
Okay, docket number 2014-5. Village of Wheeling is seeking amendments to Title 21 Signs of the Wheeling Municipal Code, including but not limited to the following. 1, application procedures. 2, landscape requirements for freestanding signs. 3, freestanding sign requirements for multi-tenant buildings. 4, exempt signs. 5, temporary signs. 6, prohibited signs. And 7, signs for businesses that allow video gaming.
Mr. Jennings,
Thank you.
you swear the testimony you give to be the truth?
I do.
Thank you. Continue on.
The items in this report were discussed at a workshop last month. And what I'd like to do, because this is the formal opening of the hearing, is just go through each one and make sure that we've had an opportunity to discuss any questions that you might have on them. The first item, under 1, require sign design drawings to be dated, adds a application requirement to the list of application requirements in the code. This was requested by the commission to ensure that we are documenting approval dates and design dates following through on the permit side. So are there any questions on this one?
Is that the date the drawing was done, or is it the date that the village received it, or a combination thereof?
It can be either. What we typically do is receive date on when we get it in. But what this would be, I think, is specifically to have the designer date it, their drawing date.
Okay.
Next one, Mr. Jennings.
Landscaping for freestanding signs, also a fairly minor modification to the code. The commission had requested that the language of this section of the code be more similar to the Streetscape Subcommittee report of 2012. At our workshop discussion, a hybrid was the consensus, which left most of the existing code language intact, with the exception of a minimum evergreen requirement. So we split out what is currently in the code listed as evergreen shrubs or other plants with winter interest. We split that into 2 other specific categories, 10% evergreen, and then the remaining 20% could be non-evergreen that have winter interest, your red twig dogwoods, for example. So that was the consensus at that time. Are there any questions on this amendment?
Nope. Next one.
The next one, listed as number 3, The idea of this amendment is to establish a sign format for multi-tenant buildings other than shopping centers. Those buildings right now are treated one of two ways, either as exactly under the shopping center requirements, or an individual tenant can place a directional sign without a permit, provided that their sign size meets the requirements of the sign code. So the idea of this is to discourage individual tenants from placing signs on multi-tenant buildings and establish a framework for clustering those signs basically into one single sign by allowing a type of sign with somewhat less significant of a presence on the street, but still require some uniformity and consistency of review. So the idea of this, as we discussed at our workshop, is to allow smaller multi-tenant signs to go through a requirement where the setback would be less than a typical shopping center sign, where the landscaping requirement could potentially be waived if there's landscaping adjacent to the sign. And all this, again, is to try to encourage the clustering of signs as we see more businesses that require public visibility in our industrial districts in particular. But this, as we discussed, would also apply to office buildings that might not necessarily require the same sort of street visibility as a shopping center, but still need some type of directional or public information near the street. There was some discussion. We have not changed this significantly since the workshop. We did make a couple of changes during the workshop, but we have not changed it significantly since then. So what I'd like to do is, again, just open it up for any questions on this section. Sure.
For point number 7, is there a reason why you say other multi-tenant buildings rather than just multi-tenant buildings?
The previous, let's see, it was, when it was up here, it was shopping centers and multi-tenant buildings. So the idea of this was just to add another one that was shopping centers as one set of requirements and then non-shopping centers as another.
Yeah, I just wonder if we need to have other there and just call them multi-tenant.
Well, because a shopping center is technically a multi-tenant building, so they're distinguishing it from a shopping center from other multi-tenants. Though you wonder about that. Do we have a definition of shopping center and multi-tenant?
Let me see. I think we do actually.
If we had that definition, then you could take out the word other.
I think the idea, oops, I went a little bit too far. I think the idea, at least when I was drafting that part, was to, let me see if we do actually define shopping center in our code here. A little bit too hard to read.
Not seeing the
That made it worse.
definitions.
No.
So I think what the idea though was if it exceeded those basic requirements, it would have to go into the shopping center. So if, for example, you went over the square footage of the multi-tenant, you'd go into the shopping center. Both of these require permits, so I think that if there were to be any question of interpretation, the commission certainly could, if staff was unsuccessful in convincing someone that they are in fact a shopping center, we could, the commission could certainly interpret it as well.
I just thought it was a little confusing. I understand what you're trying to do, but
Oops.
I'm okay with leaving it. Commissioner Zangara, are you okay with other?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
Commissioner Johnson?
I can't think of anything else to replace it
Yeah.
with.
Commissioner Powers?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Commissioner Schaaf?
It's okay.
Are there any other questions on the language? Sorry, I'm bouncing around here.
Yes, you are. You're giving me a headache.
Are there any other questions on that? Again, it would trigger the shopping center regulations if they couldn't fit into the fairly narrow definition, or sorry, the fairly narrow size constraints. They would have to go up to the shopping center regulations. They would not be able to waive the landscaping, and they would not be able to be so close to the street at that point.
Okay, great. Next one.
Temporary sign regulations.
Whoa.
All of this blue means, this is not, let me get in a little bit, there we go, that's a lot better. So the idea of this was to remove a couple of conflicts between the temporary sign regulations and the prohibited sign regulations. That was one aspect of what we were doing. We were also trying to, one of the issues we've had with temporary signs is that temporary signs tend to produce other temporary signs. By that I mean that once someone places a temporary sign on a property, it's assumed that permits are not required for those signs. And it begins to be a bit of a difficult enforcement challenge for village staff. So what we're trying to do is bring a little bit more standardization to the to temporary signage, reduce the display periods, and then narrowly define the events where such signage would be allowed. So there are also within this section a couple of sign types that are allowed temporarily that are also listed under prohibited signs. We have proposed to remove that conflict, no longer allowing those prohibited sign types. The other item that I wanted to point out here is that we currently allow a business to apply for up to a year's worth of temporary signage, provided that the sign display periods meet the code. What we are proposing here is to remove that and specifically require an additional permit application each time a display is requested. The purpose of that is to make sure that each time somebody is about to place a temporary sign on their property, we do have the review. We can check and make sure that all their other temporary signs are down and they have been down long enough. So that's the overview of what we're proposing. Are there any questions on this? Mr. Style?
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. On page 21, bullet point 7, what's at the top of the page. Can you explain that a little bit? It says the total area of all temporary signs will be 32 square feet.
That's correct.
And then it goes into dividing it into a maximum of 4 signs. So does that mean you can only have 4 temporary signs on the property?
That is correct. What we're referring to here is these signs are occasionally in pairs, each side of the driveway, maybe on 2 different driveways. So we're allowing signage, but not beyond the 32 square foot. So if you're able to advertise for your temporary event, your special event at each driveway, you have 2 street frontages, et cetera, this is kind of what we're referring to there.
Okay, but the maximum of 4 signs, does that apply to wall-mounted temporary signs as well, or is it just the, like, parking lot or driveway?
The idea of that is the freestanding. The wall sign area, I suppose we could add that to clarify that if a wall sign is in that aggregate as well.
Is it? I mean, are wall signs included in the 32 square feet
See if we
total?
are. I would say, based on this language, no. I think that we would probably need to modify it slightly to,
Say freestanding signs?
the total area of all such freestanding signs.
I mean, that's what you're trying to limit here, right?
Yes.
Okay. And let's see, I did have,
So are we making a change there?
We will make,
more clarification.
Well, but it, well, the clarification is going to be within the code, not a clarification just for you, it's going to be in the code.
yeah, I'm gonna,
That's what I was getting at. Not just to make, you, I mean, so, I want to make,
And then I do have another question. Did you get down to the special event
not yet.
section yet, or?
that's within the same, we can, if there's a question on it.
But we haven't, yeah. Go to it now.
Do we have something that describes what a special event is? I mean, could a sale be a special event, the monthly sale, or,
Grand opening.
you know, yeah, I can see a grand opening or something like that as a special event, but
Yes, we do, if it were to be, I think the challenge here is making sure that the signs themselves reflect the nature of the event. So if it is a seasonal sale of some sort, that it identify itself and not just be an additional advertising business identification sign, so.
right, like a general sale.
Yes, but we do allow businesses to place a fall special of some sort. Yes.
You do have a definition in the code, Andrew. I see it on page 26 of the packet. You do define special event.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions about,
Yes, I have one.
Mr. Johnson?
Mr. Jennings, how do you handle two-sided signs under this? If a company had two driveways, how is that 32 square feet divided up? If they had a two-sided sign on each driveway, it's only going to allow them like a 2x4?
Typically,
sign.
we only count one side of a sign if you can see it from two directions.
Okay, thank you.
Interesting.
I
Any
wouldn't say typically, that's how we measure.
Yeah.
That is how we do it.
Okay.
Yeah,
It depends.
typically, sometimes it depends. Yeah, we don't want to go down that path. Okay. Any other questions about temporary signs?
And then that, as I said, that's paired with our prohibited signs. The idea of this particular section was to clean up what is, it's this particular part right here, except for special events. It certainly gave the appearance, because it's right there in the code, that all of those prohibited signs could be allowed for an event.
Okay.
What we'd like to do is remove that, and then banners, which are generally allowed as a special event, we're going to take that out of the prohibited list because it's frequently allowed, and I don't think there's any issue with that. The other changes up here, there's a question from the commission during our workshop to add the words off premises into the section on billboards.
Okay.
Any other questions on this?
Off-premises signs were in there all along, right? So this is just an additional,
Clarification.
That's correct.
Yep.
Is being prohibited?
Yes.
So what about, we had the petitioner from Subway, he said he was gonna rent the billboard up on Lake Cook. Is that gonna be allowable, or is that prohibited?
That is allowable. An existing billboard, the billboards by their design are for the purpose of off-premises advertising. A new billboard is not allowed. So to apply for permits related to the installation of a new billboard,
Okay.
the village code would not permit that. We have existing billboards in town that are
Okay.
are allowed.
Interesting. Didn't know that.
On a side note on that, Andrew, if the billboard companies, say the ones over by the tracks here, were to want to upgrade to the LED type displays instead,
The question so far that we've dealt with on that is they would have to come in for some type of approval on it. There are only a handful of companies who do that, and they have contacted us. We've gone over the approval process, and for whatever reason, they have elected not to so far.
How can you give approval to a non-conforming entity? Wouldn't they need to get a variation first?
They would need to vary the code, yes.
Okay.
Signs for establishment with video game terminals.
The village board and the plan commission both expressed an interest in establishing some type of regulation for businesses with video gaming. We've talked to the village manager's office, and we believe that we can insert a signage review into the annual liquor license renewal process. The Liquor Control Commission recently determined that a new liquor license class would be added to deal with businesses that have video gaming. What we'll do from this point on is just on an annual basis, when the license renewals come up, it'll trigger a check. Any new special use that is required, we can discuss signage at that time. And essentially, this is a regulation that it's a very basic regulation. It establishes a coverage limitation for window signage. We did also look at the state regulations. The state does have some restrictions on the terminology that can be used. For example, you can't use the word casino in a sign. You cannot refer in any way to the Illinois Gaming Board on your sign without getting their prior approval. You cannot refer to the odds of winning in any way on your sign as being favorable at your location compared to another. They do specifically allow what they refer to as puffery, which is claims that you have, the example that the gaming board used was the best wing south of I-80. So you can make unprovable claims about other
So you can, that's in reference to like the most winners this side of Dundee Road?
You can't.
in Wheeling?
Not the winning.
No, not the winning.
But you can reference other, the best.
Best location in town.
Best pizza, best, but the odds of winning are no, and no use of the word casino. There are other gaming references can be made, but not casino. So I printed it out, we've got it on hand.
Any questions?
Yeah, Andrew, how does this coincide with the limitation on neon signs for alcohol?
Well,
Is this in
both would
addition?
apply. Both would apply. This would be in addition to that, the way this is written.
Interesting.
So if they've already maxed out on beer signs, they could still add this?
If they have maxed out on beer signs, yes. If they've maxed out on electronic signs total, no.
No.
So the
Oh,
beer,
okay.
the liquor sign is below what is allowed for electric signs total.
Okay.
Commissioner Stalin?
my presumption is that this blue paragraph is solely for signs related to the video gaming aspect. And personally, I think that the 24 square feet, which would be, just under a 5 by 5 foot square sign or a 4 foot by 6 sign, to me, is a little large for the maximum size sign.
But it would still have to be no more than 25% of the window.
Right, but, on one of these windows, that would be fine, but if those two center posts weren't there, you could have a humongous, 25 square foot sign. So, I would just rather see some smaller size granularity for all signs that maybe didn't need to go on the size of a given piece of glass in the window. You know what I mean?
It'd be a pretty big window, though, to have a 24-foot square.
Yes,
I mean, it'd be.
But I mean, if you look at a storefront for, a standard store, if they go in with one big piece of glass versus something that's divided.
Yeah, what I'm saying though is they're taking one single pane, so I mean, you're pretty limited when you get to panes of glass. I don't think I've seen a pane of glass be that humongous where I don't think a 24-foot sign would, 24-foot square foot sign would fit into any one pane of glass.
Okay, so maybe we should, what's a good standard size pane then, and make that the maximum?
I don't know that offhand.
I just think, 4 by 6 or 5, just under 5 by 5 would be a little too big for me.
How do we,
And it can't have moving or blinking or any of that stuff. Those are all prohibited, right?
That's
Andrew?
correct. That's correct.
So, I mean, we couldn't have.
so if you have, like, for instance, if we use that window as an example, that's probably 50 square feet. You think that's 5 by 10 feet high? 50 square feet, so 25% of 50 is
12 and a half.
12 and a half square feet in that case. So
I don't think you're going to see any electronic signs any bigger than that. You're going to have paper signs bigger than that. In fact, isn't one of our places up the street got a banner across their windows right now?
which one? I don't, we can name them.
But this isn't just electronic sign.
You're right, this is paper too.
I mean, I think this is
So
any
what
all
should,
signs.
how should that be worded? Because I agree with you. I think,
Just change 24 to 12 or 15 or 3 by 5? 3 by, well, some windows are strange, so.
I would agree. I think we need to lower that based upon that.
Whichever is less.
Can certainly lower that. Until you have, this is not something obviously we have very much experience with. If it's determined after after this is in place for a little while, that it's not adequate and that the typical banner is in fact larger than this, we can always work with them on it. But
Well, I'd rather start lower and then go,
And that's what I'm suggesting.
Yeah.
If we go to 12 and it turns out that it's not large.
I would like 12 square feet. Would you be in agreement with that?
What's that, 3 by 4? Yeah, that'd work.
So 12 square feet or
Yeah.
25%?
Right, whichever is less.
Right, okay.
You're okay with that? Commissioner Powers? Commissioner Chef? Mr. Stadler, you're not in favor, right?
Yes.
Oh.
No, that's fine.
Okay, good, okay.
Let's see what section that is.
Section,
Page 24.
so it's 27.07.10E. No, I'm sorry, .20E. Okay.
2107.
Any other questions on that sign? Good point, good point.
I have some general questions when we're done.
Before, okay, then ask away because they could impact this. Sure. go ahead.
Okay, I just have some questions about enforcement. When we enforce sign code, is that enforcement buried in this chapter of the sign code, Andrew?
It is in Title 21.
It is in Title 20.
Most of what is enforced that's related to signage is inside Title 21.
Okay, so I kind of have a couple questions. I see the flashing neon open signs, the reader board on Wolf Road and LaRed. I mean, that's got a reader board. It's a moving reader board with all kinds of things flashing on that. And across the street from LaRed, there's an auto insurance place that's probably 3/4 of one pane of glass is a neon sign covering the whole inside of the window. How is that stuff enforced?
Typically a complaint basis. If our inspectors have observed it, the flashing and moving tend to stand out. So our inspectors in all likelihood have made some enforcement action on it. If you have seen one that hasn't, you can always call the code enforcement hotline on it.
Okay.
Or you could bring it up here. That's why we have other business. Bring it up here.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, those are, it's unfortunately, it's like all of our code, we're the ones.
I could be wrong by bringing it up. I don't know. It just would be good to know.
No, I think, I think a
don't wanna
couple of
keep bringing
things,
this stuff up.
we don't know, you as a commissioner, or we as commissioners don't know what, especially new commissioners, don't know what's been approved. I can't tell you what we approved last week. So seriously, if there's a question about something, send an email to Andrew, bring it up and ask, I saw this sign, and we'll investigate it. The enforcement people will go out and look, but they need to know about it. You know, if you think about where they're at all the time in the village, we're part of the village, and if we see something that's amiss, like anything, signs included.
The one thing that I would ask that you do, just to make sure that we're getting it documented, is call the code enforcement hotline. It's fine to bring it up here, but it's, when it comes in, it gets, it's dated and the location is noted. So
That's fine.
We catch our repeat complaints easier that way.
So I just want to, I'll leave the others I had, but I just want to ask one more question. What in the sign code that we have now, do we have any language that states what triggers a sign code review or triggers a sign review? Like if somebody wanted to change their sign, or under what circumstances a sign review would be triggered, like so-called a landscape review?
If a sign is changed and it's not a sign that was designed to be changed. If a changeable copy sign is designed to be changed regularly. They have the movable letters, you put them up. A sign that's got a reader board on it is designed to have different messages displayed on it. If it's a permanent sign that doesn't have changeable parts on it, the changes to that require review. The exception to that would be basic maintenance. If it's a painted sign and it's starting to fade, the code actually requires them to repaint it. So, but it would have to continue to look the same.
But if they want to change the color, they have to
Yes.
have it reviewed.
So maintaining a sign in its appearance is expected. The letters break and fall off, you're expected to put them back up. And we do have that somewhat regularly, where the parts of a sign will break off, and we do need to enforce that.
Okay, I think that's what I got for now.
Mr. Chairman, I do have an additional question that I forgot
Yes.
to ask the first time. In the prohibited sign area somewhere, I can't find it now, they talked about signs for businesses that have left the premise need to be removed within a certain period of time. Can we add something that goes above and beyond that in saying that for a multi-tenant sign, that reversing the letters or turning the sign inside out or upside down isn't sufficient, that it needs to be replaced with a blank panel? I don't think.
We've always talked about it.
Yeah.
So specifically under J that we're looking at right now on the
Yep.
screen, any sign that identifies a business or occupant that is no longer on the premises where such sign is located is a prohibited sign. So such sign shall be removed within 30 days. So add a third sentence to that section there that says tenant panel signs shall also be removed, something to that effect.
Then tenant, what'd you say?
Tenant panels need to
sign.
be replaced with a blank panel?
When removed, must be replaced by blank.
Or in the first sentence, just add, after where such sign is located, comma, including tenant panel signage. Any sign that identifies a business or occupant that is no longer on the premises where such sign is located, including tenant panel
Well,
signage.
but I mean, again, it gets back to one of enforcement, right? I mean, you could say that their sign isn't there anymore, even though Blockbuster is upside down and backwards. But, you know, is it really removed? Clearly, it no longer says Blockbuster.
I think you need to, I think we need to add something that says, and replaced with a blank panel.
Yeah, because I think if you just take a sign, turn it upside down, and once it gets lit, you're still going to see something. It just
Well-
doesn't look, it looks out of place to me.
And it's interpretation of, to your point, it's interpretation of removed.
Right.
You know, their removing is turning it, and we've always had that issue.
And maybe it's something just as simple as such signs shall be removed and replaced with a blank panel or something like that.
The way I have it worded right now is that tenant panel signs are to be replaced with a blank panel or leasing panel, and then in parentheses, added to 2106 800J.
Yep, sounds good.
Thank you.
Any other comments, questions about the change to sign code? Andrew, do we have to bring this back for final, or can we?
I would leave that to the commission. If you're fairly comfortable with the three items that we've,
And what are those three items?
number one, under 2106 700A subsection 7, the first sentence of the temporary sign size regulation is clarified to refer to freestanding signs.
Okay.
Number two is under 2107020 subsection E. That's the special use sign specifically for video gaming. Maximum sign area for gaming signs is to be reduced to 25% or 12 square feet, whichever is less. And number three, we just discussed, is 2106 800J. The tenant panel signs are to be replaced with a blank panel or leasing panel. We certainly can bring this back if you'd like to see how that works out.
Are we okay with going with it and passing it on and approving tonight, or would you like to see the final words? Commissioner Zangara?
I'm okay with passing it tonight.
Commissioner Johnson?
I'm okay with passing it.
Commissioner Stylin?
I'm okay.
Commissioner Powers?
It's fine, I'm okay.
Mr. Chef?
Okay.
I'm okay also. So let's, do we have a motion on, whatever this was?
2014-5?
Thank you.
Yes, I'll make the motion.
I'll second.
We have a motion by Commissioner Stylin, seconded by Commissioner Johnson. Mr. Secretary?
Commissioner Stylin?
Yes.
Commissioner Johnson says yes. Commissioner Powers?
Yes.
Commissioner Schaaf?
Yes.
Commissioner Zangara,
Yes.
and Chairman Rafato.
Yes. Thank you. Andrew?
Wrapping up some details on that, if you could just tell me who made and seconded that, please?
Commissioner Stylen made the motion, second by Commissioner Johnson. We all voted yes, with Commissioner Dorban being absent.
And I need a motion to close on that, please.
Motion to close?
So moved.
Second?
All those in favor?
Aye.
Next on the agenda, approval of minutes. We have none. 9, other business. Mr. Jennings, other business?
I have no other business. There is just a quick note, the village board agenda for Monday night does include the modifications to Serenello's, the special use ordinance that had been for Tremonto's Steak and Seafood would be replaced with a banquet-specific ordinance.
Okay, great. Thank you. Other business. Commissioner Zangara.
Well, I'd like to thank Chairman Rafato for coming back from Arizona and bringing warm weather back.
You're quite welcome.
Yeah, he only brought 1 day's worth.
One day. That was it.
It's been a long day.
Yeah.
But secondly, I'd like to say it was very nice, I guess, since the Pleasant Run Park opened up on December 1st. This week there was actually kids out there playing. And looks like it was very well planned, very well built, and be very well used this summer if it ever gets here. That's all.
Thank you. Commissioner Johnson.
I have nothing.
Commissioner Stylen.
I don't have anything this evening. Thank you.
Commissioner Powers.
A couple of quick things. Andrew, did we formally put out the RFP for the landscaping stuff yet?
We've not formally put it out. I believe I'm going to formally distribute that the first week of April. The idea, at least right now that we've discussed with the manager's office, is to have the proposals in hand in advance of the joint board plan commission meeting at the end of May. So the idea is have those dollar amounts and the scope of services available as a discussion item for that night.
Okay, sounds good. Last thing is, I will not be here next week.
I suppose I do have one other item.
Commissioner Schaaf.
I'm just glad that winter's over and spring is here.
And thank you. And I just, one thing, this is just a public, the church to the east of here, St. Joseph the Worker, on a Friday night has fish fry, which is very good. Just a comment. One of the many things to do in our village. And Mr. Jennings, I know you have one more thing.
We have no items of business, either workshops or voting items next week. Having the sign code recommendation passed this evening, our intention is to issue notice of cancellation tomorrow, unless there is some item. We actually are, I would say at this point, unable to put together a workshop for another purpose.
You're out of town,
I am out of town next week.
and so is Brooke is here.
Well, she will be here. If there were a workshop to have, she would be here to run it.
Commissioner Stylen?
Just a suggestion, I think it's probably been a year since we've reviewed the priority list or whatever, follow-up list or whatever we call it. Maybe we could just have a quick review of it, and maybe if there are things that have been done or no longer needed or whatever, just review that list and adjust accordingly.
Would somebody be able to put that together for?
Before the meeting with the board, maybe? You have that done?
Or are you looking for next week to do that, or?
Yeah, I mean, if there's, it should be something that's readily available. If I remember correctly, it was a spreadsheet or
Be up to the consensus of the commission.
Well, but Brooke is alone next week, so is that something that It wasn't something that was planned, is it something that she would be able to finish next week? I'm looking at it from staff, because
Well, from a
I
staff,
know we can all be here.
From a staff standpoint, if there's a workshop that involves any sort of preparation, I would suggest that it would not be appropriate to try to do that. If you're looking for a review of the spreadsheet, we can certainly email it, and you can have it for the next meeting as well. So if the idea is to make some sort of decision next week, we would have to have a meeting. If the idea is to request that staff just distribute that and have it available for the April 10th meeting, we could do that as well.
Or,
So
well,
it's the-
we have some,
We have one hearing scheduled for April 10th.
but I'd like to have, I was shooting for everybody being here, but Commissioner Powers isn't going to be here next week either, and then in April, Commissioner Stallings not going to be here. Maybe we should schedule it for the beginning of May, do a review of that, so we know everybody is here.
And we can do that.
Yeah.
The idea for the workshop, joint workshop with the board is, I believe, the fourth Monday, doing it on a Monday. Use the
Of
board's
May?
work. Yes.
Okay, so
board's
then we have
workshop.
time in May to do it, but that's a good point,
We do
Commissioner
the
Stallings. Then we
first
can,
May meeting
then everybody will be here in May.
back in May.
Right, you're back in May, correct? Cool,
Second week,
okay.
All right, first planning commission.
probably is, unless you do something strange.
Andrew, did we hear anything from Cedar Run?
Since the tabling of their,
Yeah.
I don't know, we have not heard anything.
Okay, good suggestion, Commissioner Stalin. We need to review that, yep, and add or subtract as we're going through, so it's a good point. If we have nothing else, motion to adjourn?
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Adjourned. Thank you.